our culture is at the worst when it comes to the saturation of bullshit.
There we go.
Because we have a president who lies to us all the time. And so he contaminates our discourse with bullshit. And if you think about the consequence of that, the lies about COVID-19 have resulted in people dying. The United States has been among the worst in terms of countries responding to this. We're less than 4% of the world's population. We are nearly 25% of the deaths associated with COVID-19. No other advanced industrialized nation has done a worse job of dealing with this disease. And part of the reason for that is because lies pervade this whole experience. So when we have current events discussions, we want to make sure it's a bullshit-free zone. We deal with evidence. Okay? Does that make sense? Everybody on board? Everybody understand what we're looking for here, right? Let's just be truthful. Let's get to the evidence. Let's make rational choices, right? So if that's the case, George, COVID-19 has killed 200,000 people, and that's not a lie. And the people who got sick with this, George, we are not going to tolerate BS. So you can mute yourself for a minute, and I'll give you a chance to talk if you want to say that COVID-19 is a joke. But you better bring some evidence, brother, because this is going to get ugly quick if you don't.
I mean, I think it's real at the same time, but I think that the numbers are not. Like, I think that maybe like
George
maybe like 30 out of like, I don't know, like maybe like 10,000.
George, you can talk about the numbers any way you want.
Just stop.
But I'm going to look at the evidence here again, right? So if you look at excess mortality, right? So the number of people who die month by month in the United States, which is reported data. And in fact, every country in the world reports excess
Mr.
mortality.
Lewis is a wise man.
Right?
Why would you?
And if you look at excess
against
mortality
James
rates, we're probably
Lewis, the better
underreporting the number of deaths associated with COVID-19
They're my favorite
by about
dude.
60%. Because the number of deaths linked to this period in time are 60% higher than the numbers that are reported for COVID-19. So there is that other piece of evidence. Secondarily,
He just feels it
we
so
know
smart.
that we've responded poorly to
I
this
think Martin's a word.
because New York State responded so well to this, right? If New York State was a sovereign country, right, we weren't part of the United States. If we had borders that separated us from the other states, I could probably teach you in a classroom right now. Because with less than a 1% infection rate, we could probably create safe conditions in schools. But we're part of the United States, and you guys travel. And what we know from colleges reopening is that's created new clusters of disease. And if you open up a high school, you're going to create a new cluster of disease. So all of that complicates this moment.
This guy.
And the reason New York did such a good job
president.
is we relied on science and we pulled together.
My history teacher should
Right?
be
That's the truth. People put on masks and they took care of each other. And so what was the worst outbreak in the country now becomes one of the best responses in the country.
He should literally be the president.
So that's evidence, George.
Better than Donald Trump right here.
You want to bring some evidence? I'm happy to have the conversation.
Every card. Is he dog? He's still
First of all, that
dying.
$36,000 number doesn't make any sense based on the evidence I'm looking at. The government doesn't get anything, it spends money. Right? And $36,000 is an arbitrary number. What we know is that when the outbreak was at its worst, people were reluctant to go for healthcare when they got sick. So the most people who showed up at the hospital were really, really, really sick. All right? And so when they got to the hospital, almost everybody who went to the hospital ended up in a ventilator.
To fight with my teacher?
And if you ended up in a ventilator, there was a 1 in 5 chance that you were going to die. All right? That's real. And the people who went on the ventilator are also now dealing with long-term health consequences. Right? They no longer have full functioning. People have lost their legs because of COVID-19. Because it's a vascular disease.
I said if he continues
All right. So
to keep talking.
again, you want to bring the evidence? Let's bring the evidence. George, hospitals are losing money because of COVID-19. They're not getting rich because of COVID-19. They're actually losing money. Some for-profit hospitals will probably go out of business because of COVID-19. And the reason for that is because the greatest source of profit for hospitals are elective surgeries.
No one is looking at
And in our for-profit healthcare system, we have a shortage of intensive care beds. And the reason we have a shortage of intensive care beds is because when you want to get elective surgery, the shortage of those beds means they can charge you more for it. All right. And what's happening right now because of COVID-19, there are no elective surgeries because there's limited capacity for it. We've just, like, it wasn't until June that they were allowed to do them again, but people are still reluctant to go to the hospital right now. So there are hospital systems that will probably go bankrupt because of COVID-19.
My thing.
So again, it's not the for-profit motivation that inflates the numbers, because there is no inflation in the numbers. There's actually inaccuracies in the numbers, and those are systemic because of the way we report deaths. And if we look at the evidence strongly suggests that we're underreporting deaths by 60%. All right. You want to bring some more evidence, George? Because I got a boat of it. I got a boatload of evidence if you want it. All right.
George, do not continue. You lost. You lost. Stop.
Everything okay there, Destiny?
Yo, stop trying.
Sorry, you're just making valid points.
Yo,
I'm trying.
He's roasting him with
I'm trying.
facts.
All right.
He's roasting him with
I know,
facts.
Mr. Lewis.
Period. That's what I have to say.
I've been working for 3 months straight, and I see 60 people a day, and I've not once got. But that's a very small sample.
Are you serious?
All right, George, you can't look at, the weather out your window is not a measure of what the climate is, and your personal experiences doesn't necessarily explain what's happening across this country. Because the worst outbreaks right now are in red states. States that didn't take this seriously. New York, over the last 3 months, has done a really good job of cracking down on this
class so much.
Right? So the fact that you can work in New York and not get sick, that's because we take care of each other in New York. All right? Look, your cousin got it, Ethan. I had students last year who lost grandparents to it. All right? I'm sorry, right? So, Leslie, you also lost a grandparent to COVID-19?
An uncle.
An uncle. So, this stuff is real, George. Our family members have been affected by it, right? My sister's an emergency room nurse. She was dealing with these people, and she described just how sick these people were, right? So, look,
God,
we can lie to ourselves and, and kind of allow ourselves to swim in the sea of bullshit, or we can deal with the evidence that exists. And that's what we got to do here, right? It's all about the evidence. You bring the evidence, I'll be happy to engage you with evidence. But speculative claims, we can't do that, right? I'm not going to do that with you. You shouldn't do that with me, okay?
So do not continue, George.
All right. Anybody else?
No.
Right.
No.
Was that a good one? Was that okay?
That was a really good one.
I
love that one.
Thumbs up on COVID-19. Very good. So we got 2 minutes left.
2 minutes left? Bro, he just did a whole thing. This is the best class.
But I guess, hey, that's current events, and it was substantial. And now you've learned how to use a swear word philosophically. All right? So let's think about this. Hey, Seuss, what do you have to do if you ever want to use that word that's in the title of Professor Frankfurt's essay?
Crazy.
This
was too good.
Like, kind of no say, but say at the same time.
What are you doing? Using your air quotes, right? Always use your air quotes. And who are you quoting when you use your air quotes?
George,
who are you quoting though?
Because he's trying to
Professor Frankfurt. Because all of a sudden, Now it's no longer a swear word. Now it's a philosophical word. All right? Does that make sense? All right.
Oh my God.
It is now 2:19, and I'm going to say goodbye because you guys are amazing today. All right? So you keep it up. You be you.
This was
Have a great
too
weekend.
good.
All right? And I'll be looking forward to seeing you
This
guys on
was
Monday.
too
All right?
good. This was
Stop hitting
the
each other.
best class.
Bye-bye.
Good talk
Take care,
today.
guys.
Good talk.
Huh?
This
Good
was
talk.
literally
Thank you.
the best class.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. All right? I promise to bring it every day. All right?
All right, all right.
All
Have
right.
I
a
have
good
a
weekend.
question.
I'm listening, Leslie. What's up?
This was the best class.